What's up, everybody? It's Damon Snider from Type D Living here again. Today I'm going to show you how to build a little bit more of an intricate project. It's going to be a kind of floating workstation. I'm putting it in my garage. And difficulty level a little bit more advanced than the headboard project we did earlier. But it's still manageable, still easy to do. Everything you can find at Home Depot on the cheap. And when we're all done, it's going to look pretty dope. So I'll walk you through it. We started off strictly with just getting a shelf that we're going from Home Depot. It's a nice oak shelf. It's 16 inches wide by 8 feet long. We're going to cut that down to the size that we want. We've got some sides from pine 1x4 that we're going to cut down for the edges to give it a little thickness. We've got some angle iron, slotted angle iron that we're going to use to mount it to the wall. And then we've got all our sort of detail hardware like chains and eye bolts and all that kind of stuff to sort of jazz it up. Tools you'll need: your trusty cordless drill. We're going to use a nail gun today. If you don't have a nail gun, you can use your drill and put screws in the side, which I'll explain. We'll need glue, your tape measure, all the essentials, wrench, and then I got this little tiny portable compressor. So, and then a level, because if you want to get it level and not, make it look wonky, that's probably a good thing to have on you. So we'll get started and I'll explain how to get it done. So first we're going to start off setting the dimensions of our overall workstation up, and we're going to take this 16-inch deep shelf and just cut down the length, because I want this thing to be 16 inches. So we're good on the length again. I don't have to rip it down, but I do want it to be 7 feet long instead of 8. So I'm going to mark out my 7-foot mark, and then we're going to chop it, and then this will set the overall width of our whole entire workstation. So we find our 7 feet. I finished the cut. So what I'm going to do is take these 1x3 strip by 8 foot long strips of pine, and we're going to nail it onto the edge so that from the front it looks like your whole workstation is going to be close to 3 inches thick, and it's also going to give us the rigidity, because a board on its edge is a lot stronger than a board on its horizontal. So we're going to get the rigidity that we want, and also we're going to make it visually look a little bit thicker and more into proportion. So I'm going to take this and cut it down to size. But what I want to stress is that if you're picky like I am and you want to make clean corners, I'm going to miter these corners, which means cut the edges off on a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to do the same for the side pieces, which is going to give me a nice butt joint, sorry, not a butt joint, a miter joint, but you're not going to see the edge of the actual material. So it's going to look like your 3-inch pine wraps all the way around. So we're going to cut that now. Okay, so I finished my cuts. I've made my 45-degree miters. So as you see, when they're put together, my shelf is going to fit in between there. And we're going to nail it on the edges, and it's just a nice clean finish all the way around. Okay, so now we got all our pieces cut, and we're just going to give this thing a little bit of dimension. So what I'm going to do is take this front 1x3, and I'm going to glue and nail it onto my front edge. Nice thin strip, because it's going to compress and you don't want it to goop out the edges too much. I'm just going to do the whole thing once. So put some glue in the miter joint just so that corner is nice and solid. There you go. Repeat on the other side. And maybe put some nails into the corner. So I want to mount this shelving unit underneath these windows. I've got 3 windows, and I want to mount it centered on the center window. So I've measured it so that 7 feet long comes to just about centered on this window, and 7 feet long, or the other 3.5 feet, goes center on that window. So it's just a design thing that I worked out. According to your space, that's how far, how big you're going to make your actual workstation. So that's where I want it to be. And that's the new mark where the angle iron is going to get mounted. And then this trusty little thing, a level, which is going to prevent you from having a wonky little workstation that has everything rolling off, is going to be our guide to set that piece of angle iron exactly at the level line that we want. So now we're approximately at our center point, and we're going to do a few markings on the wall so we know that this is level now because we've made the marks. So I'm going to take a pencil, and everywhere there's a stud, I'm going to mark, just trace around that circle. You'll see better on this side. Trace around, trace around. I'm going to drill a pilot hole into the center of that circle so I know that it's going to be centered on that hole. And if you have an 1.5 inch lag bolt, as I do, you want to go in the full 1.5 inches just to prevent it from splitting at the end. So we're going to finish off these holes. So now we got our pilot holes all drilled up. We've got it roughly level to start. What I'm going to do is put some lag bolts in each end. Okay, so now we got our little back support for the workstation mounted up to the wall. So that's going to support the back edge, but now what we want to do is support the front edge of the workstation, so we've got that hanging feel where you can put some weight on into it and it's not going to just flex down and crack and all your shit's going to get thrown away onto the ground. So what I do, and what I've sort of designed this workstation to look like, is the top of the shelf is going to be supported by a chain. So it gives you that industrial look. It's cheap, you can get this at Home Depot, a couple bucks a foot kind of thing, and it gives you that sort of real like masculine feel, right? So the front of this chain is going to be mounted to the front of the workstation. The back of it, or the top corner, is going to be mounted to a anchor at the top here. So now we just have to figure out, well, how much chain do we want showing? So I've sort of roughed it out that I want about 12 inches of chain coming up, and then the rest is going to come down on that angle. So I've measured. I should also mention I wanted the chain detail to be in between these two windows. So I've measured the center of these two windows, which is on this stud right here, and it's just about that spot right there. So we're just going to mount the center in the stud, and I'm going 12 inches up, so I have that 12 inches of chain. So the first anchor we're going to put there, and we're going to do the same on the other side in between the two windows. So like the lag bolts, we've got a, I think this is more like 5/8, or sorry, 3/8. We still want to put a pilot hole in there so we don't crack the stud. So again, find a drill bit that sort of does the part. Here we've gone 1/4 inch. So we're going to put our little pilot hole in. Twist into place, and you want to make sure that it's centered so that when you're looking at it, it's not off on an angle like everything else that we do. And then use that leverage to lock it into place, and we'll keep on twisting. So these eyelets have to be mounted directly in line with these on your actual workstation. Well, the easiest way to line them up without putting this thing up, if you're one guy and you're kind of juggling back and forth, is to take from your center point, because the table is going to be mounted center, measure from your center point, which you already marked earlier, to the center point of this, which gives us about 22.5. And then from your center point, which is the same center point as on the window, we're going to mark 22.5, which is right there. Now you're going to drill the other side, but I'll show you how to install these eyelets. Now these eyelets only come with one nut. So to give myself some more adjustability, I bought an additional nut and 2 washers per eyelet so that I can have everything spaced the way that I want it. So if I need to raise the height to adjust the chains a little tighter, I can pull this up, push it down, and you're rocking. So you want to put your first nut on first, all the way up to the top. Throw your top washer. You're going to plop it through the hole. So now it's secured like so. and then you're going to go on the underside, put the washer first and then the nut. And you'll notice that because of my 2-inch or my 3-inch lip, you won't actually ever see this hardware, and it will look nice and finished on the edge. So as you can see, I mounted this thing up just loosely, just so I can get it up here and start fitting the chains. I want to make sure this is level. A good tip, you know, if you're by yourself doing this, take a board, if you have an extra piece of board, or maybe like a broom or something that's slightly the right size, wedge it on an angle, you know, adjust your height, pull it in from the bottom, push it into the top. Now I have my table sitting level, and I don't have to worry about fumbling with my hands and doing things like all over the place. So I've got the table level. So the next situation is I'm going to add these guys to my eye hooks in the back, fit my chain around, loop the chain through here, attach these little suckers on the end, clip it in, and then take my support out, and you'll see that it's nice and solid. So we'll take our chain, which we still have to cut to length, but just to show you, you know, I got 5-foot length. You gotta be careful because you gotta remember this table is not perfectly solid. It's not mounted in, it's just supported by that little loop thing, or the board. I'm gonna pull out all the slack, let the rest of it hang, which we're gonna use for the other side. Loop this guy in here like so. And then you'll see, this is what's going to create our support. So with this, loop it, attach it in place, and we want this thing to be tight. So I'm going to go to the furthest loop of the chain link that I can just pull this thing kind of tight. So I've gone ahead and cut the chain with my hacksaw the way I measured it out, and you can see there's a lot of slack here. Once I put my hook on and my little C-clamp thing, there's a lot of slack. So if I take out this board, it's not going to be level, it's going to droop down. So the way that we tighten that up is I'm going to take the chain out, we're going to twist this eyelet deeper into the wall, which is going to pull everything tighter this way and hopefully tighten it up so we can get it level. So after a little bit of adjustment with these eye hooks and loops, we have it all secured up. So it's now time to take away the support, check the level, and see if this whole thing was worthwhile in the end. So we took the support out, one step's done, straightening out everything out, check it, and we're just about right on level. So there you have it, another sort of custom do-it-yourself wicked piece of furniture that you can use and actually physically make yourself, even though you are a dude and we're just learning here. But it's simple enough, you can get it done. I'm Damon for Type D Living, you know, representing Toro magazine on this wicked do-it-yourself video, and dude out, we'll catch you next time.